campaign is let us vote. We used to say balanced budget amendment, but that's not a term that's actually going to work for where we are. So we got to thinking about what should this amendment do for future generations? And our view is that we should look to an amendment that maximizes the prosperity of our grandkids. So how would we do that? Here's where we stand today. Think of the economy as a pie. You've heard of the economic pie. And today, Congress takes about 26% of the pie. The rest goes to the states and the people. Under current law, under the Constitution of the United States, the current law that's in place put underneath the Constitution of the United States, Congress is planning on taking almost half of the economic pie in 40 years. So the people that grow the pie have a shrinking share of the growing pie that they were responsible for growing the economy. Does that sound fair? Does it sound fair that Congress should have the authority to take half the pie and then drop the rest of us by a third? So how can we fix that? Dr. Paulson presented a paper from the Congressional Budget Office. In 2008, we had a national discussion in Orlando, Florida about amending the Constitution. We just thought, no, we ought to take a look at this. And this is something that has driven me all the way since 2008. Because what the CBO said, Paul Ryan said, I want you to forecast for the next 75 years, two things. We're going to sustainabilize the entitlements, and they gave them the particulars, and they actually put it into law and got it out of the House of Representatives. And I want you to limit the growth of discretionary spending to inflation plus 0.7%, basically inflation and population. The CBO has scored this 3 times. And every time it's the same answer. GDP per capita goes from 40,000. Real GDP per capita goes from 40,000 to 160,000. I could see my granddaughter sitting out there. They're living the American dream. Every generation in American history has passed on the dream of peace and prosperity to their kids and their grandkids. I could see that in the roadmap. So, think about it. Whose income should grow faster? The people that grow the pie or the federal government? So we came up with, based on the Swiss experience, and I'll show you a little bit more of what happened in Switzerland, but this is Maximizing Americans' Prosperity Amendment. Pretty straightforward. Spending growth limit. Spending can go up every year. There's never a cut. But it requires that the Americans' net income grows faster than the spending growth of the federal government. If there's an emergency like a pandemic or a war, yes, you can go above the spending growth limit, but you have to pay it back with interest over time by reducing the future spending growth limit on an annual basis. Now, I know a lot of you talked about enforcement. Actually, Warren Buffett came up with this idea on CNBC about 11 years ago. And every time I throw this out, people's eyes get so big. We really think this is a way to enforce it. The enforcement is if no member of a majority party of Congress who violates the spending growth limit, and it's a number, it's audited, it's totally independent. They can't mess with this. This is how much you can spend total in a year. If you spend more than that, you have violated the Constitution, and you, as a majority party, are not running for the election next time. Section 4, what if a majority of the states want to change that spending growth limit? What if a majority vote in Congress wants to change the spending limit? They want to propose a program or whatever. It can be proposed by a majority vote of the states or Congress, and then it's ratified by the Article 5 state convention mode, which is a vote of the people for the yes pledged vote, yes pledged delegate in 3/4 of the states, which is a vote of the people. So that is our prescription for maximizing America's prosperity. And there are a couple of questions that always come up, and we already have. Would taxes have to be raised to balance the budget on an annual basis? No. It says nothing about balancing the budget on an annual basis. Would federal revenues increase without actually raising taxes or introducing a new tax? The answer is taxes as a percentage of GDP will go up because of inflation and going up through tax brackets and so forth. CBO always tells us this. So yes, over time, revenues would increase without a tax rate increase. Would spending cuts be required? Absolutely not. So we've given away the answer to this. So let's go to what happened in Switzerland. The first thing that happened is that they started paying down their debt to GDP ratio. And it went into effect in 2003. The red line's on the bottom. You can see it's sloping down from close to 50% down to 25%. But the real key here is what Fitch, who measures the debt quality and rates every sovereign country in the world, they said the debt break means Switzerland is the leader of the pack, the best investment. If you want to buy a bond, there's only one hitch. If you want to invest in the bonds, at their treasury bills of Switzerland, you're going to have to pay them 0.75% interest a year. And that is because they have the highest rated credit in the world. The spending, averaged increase in spending was 2.1% since 2003. And there were only just a couple of years that the spending actually went down. And what we heard is that because the 85% of the people voted for it, the politicians and especially the bureaucrats were scared to death. If I go over the top, I'm toast. And so they literally never hit their spending growth limit. Is that right, Barry? Yeah, so their spending goes down because they're afraid of going over the top. So here's the bottom line, and here's why I want you to vote for my granddaughters. I want you to vote for the MAP amendment because in 17 years, the Swiss went from lowered GDP per capita, slightly lower, to a higher GDP per capita. You see the line here. Switzerland is way ahead of, and for a family of four, the numbers in real terms add up to $32,000 more in real GDP for a family of four. And that's what I want for my granddaughters. So I hope you vote for, the MAP amendment. Thank you.